Hey everyone, my name is Tom Kras. Welcome to my channel. Continuing on with my VCV videos. So I'm learning VCV and I've picked up a few things along the way and I can show you what I've learned. I'm not an expert. There are other YouTube channels out there that have much more information than I have, but I'm learning and I find this useful for me. So I'll throw in some tips and tricks while I'm doing it as well. This is the end of the session from the last time where we got our keyboard working. Let's clean it up a bit. So we can select multiple modules by just dragging our mouse over it. We can delete them with the delete key. And just in case you want them back, you can always hit Control Z to bring them back. Or you can hit Control Shift and Z, which will redo or undo whatever. You can click down on the scroll wheel to drag this around, and you can also just hit the Control key and zoom in order to get a better view of your modules. Okay, so today we're going to take a look at a new module. I tend to use just the VCV modules themselves when doing these videos. I have a few favorites I like, and you can see the favorites here because they're highlighted with a yellow border. You can add things to the favorites if you want. For example, if I want to add this blank panel, I can just control and click it and it adds the yellow border. And when I go into my favorites, then it's there. If I just control and click it again, it's gone. No longer in my favorites, but you have to refresh the favorites for it to disappear. The module we're going to look at today is the Midi map module. And as it says, it actually maps Midi controls into our VCV modules. We're going to make sure we have our Arturia Midi Lab Mark II selected. And just one thing, maybe just a note, if you take a look at the context menu of any of these modules, you'll see that there's an info page. And inside the info page, there is the user manual. This is quite good. So every module that you load up or you want to use is really worth looking at these manuals. There's lots of useful information in them. Highly recommended that you do it for all new ones. Okay. Another thing to note is in my oscillator, I have some changes from the defaults. I just want to reset this to the default. I can do this by pressing making sure the module is selected and pressing Control and I. It resets everything to the default. This is important. More about this later. Okay, so I want to map the level controls to my volume slider that's on my MIDI controller. At the moment, the volume slider does nothing. So we click Unmapped. Then we click the level. As you notice, a little yellow dot appeared. This means that this is now under control of the MIDI map. And then on our MIDI controller, I just hit the slider for the volume. And now it's working. I can fully control the slider. Also, we can click again on Unmapped. And we can select the frequency, control knob. And we can map that to the physical encoder on our MIDI lab. Now, just a tip here. If I do nothing and I just click the pulse width encoder or knob, watch what happens. Now the same control is managing both of these. This is not what we want. So it doesn't leave mapping mode once you have mapped one control. You actually have to manually leave the mapping mode. So how do you fix this? Simple enough. You go back over to the control section of the MIDI map, or the menu of the MIDI map, and then you just right click. But you've got to right click the two of them. You've got to right click the pulse width VCO as well. Okay, so now we just are controlling the frequency with our encoder. So let's map this one to an encoder as well. There we go. Now we have it all mapped. And you can even listen to it as we play a note. Perfect. You can do this for all of the knobs and buttons inside here. So as long as you have enough free hardware knobs and buttons on your MIDI controller, you can map as much as you want. Let's just take a look at this inside the oscilloscope, just so you can see it. So we open a scope. We drag down another cable to the scope. Let's just zoom out a bit, so making sure everything's in focus. Just another tip: you see these cables? Sometimes these cables can get in the way. They can kind of be sort of, you know, unintentionally block some of your view. So you can go into the view option, and then you can change the cable tension, and as you can see, it kind of, the cables can sag, or you can make them tighter, or you have the opacity and you can make them either completely solid or you can make them completely invisible. I like somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle. So you can see them, it's a nice effect, and they're not really in the way. Okay, so let's change the time down a bit, and let's move the offset down a bit. So into the note. So that offset is not really ideal for me. Okay, let's okay, now if we move the encoder, you can see that the wave changes in its width, the frequency. And if we click the trigger, maybe it's a bit more visible. Yep, so that's quite good. And okay, let's take a look at the pulse width. So the pulse width doesn't affect the sine wave. Why is that? Well, the pulse width is really only affects the square wave. So let's have a look at the square wave. And now let's bring it into something we can see a bit better. And now let's change the pulse width. Now you can see it modifying the wave shape and modifying the sound. So this will be the last VCV video I'll do for a while. I recently bought a cheap synthesizer, a Naturia Impact or Drum Brute Impact. I might do a couple of videos on them. My name is Tom Cross. Thank you very much, and I will see you guys all later on. Bye bye.